Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5A. Early August or first weekend of August garden tour. A little bit of a walk through. You can see the firelight hydrangeas have really started turning pink now. We've had some beautiful weather the last few days with cooler temperatures, like highs in the upper 70s and low humidity, dew points in the 50s. Once you get out of the 50s, then it starts feeling humid, and those super humid days are like dew points in the 70s. So very comfortable weather, especially the end of July. Only drawback, we've had a ton of smoke from Canadian wildfires. Like Minnesota had the worst air quality literally in the globe on planet Earth the last week. The Twin Cities' second worst air quality of any major city on Earth. So yeah, it's been not so great. So very hazy. Last night I'm still sneezing a lot and a little bit of a cough just from all the particulate matter. It even has now gone into Illinois, Kansas, and Missouri, this plume of smoke that hit. So it hasn't been super fun. It just feels like we can't win sometimes in terms of weather. This is my favorite coneflower that I have, and it planted itself. It's some hybrid between two others that fertilized and planted its own self right here. And I am so glad it did. The helenium started opening a little bit more. You can see all the buds. This will be just covered in those little like sombrero looking blooms, little mini blooms. And then this coreopsis is putting out a second flush of bloom. It has those cool like tube shaped petals on the flower. And I don't know exactly, I'm not sure on the name of that one now. I can't remember. It's something like Jethro, or it's like an old-timey man's name for the plant. But I also got it on clearance, so it's possible it was mismarked. You never quite know. Things looking good over here. I think that annual mum I planted got a little stressed, but we'll see what it does. Love the blooms on this Stokes aster. Pretty lavender. So I'm excited to see what this one does. Oh, this looks like a phlox. Did a phlox plant itself here? That would be cool. I want to add more phlox to my garden. Sometimes when I think it's a weed, I just let it grow and see what happens. I can always pull it later if I need to. And sometimes it works out. Like with echinacea and hopefully that phlox. 20 peach snapdragon here looking really pretty. There was one in the middle that was nice and big and full, and then just boom, was like dead one day. So I don't know what was up with that. But the others look good. I'll have to plant more of those. I have noticed the diacia, the ones in the front that get full sun, have stayed more full of bloom versus the ones towards the back that get more shade throughout the day. I deadheaded the ones way in the back to see if I can get more blooms out of them. But so note to self when planting diacia, full sun is better. Otherwise, love the color. This is why this is my favorite. This double Zahara salmon zinnia is just my favorite color. It's so bright, that bright coral. The two torchlight coleus, one is much bigger than the other one, which is interesting. I think there are some roots underneath here. I know I have trouble digging holes sometimes because the large roots from the spruce trees that were removed are still under all this. They couldn't, of course, they went and all through here and even into the yard a little bit, ground out those big roots that were just under the surface. But of course they couldn't come in here because they would have destroyed my garden. So we just deal with it. Still in bloom, the opening act phlox. I just can't say enough good things about these. They do need full sun to continuously bloom. The ones that are in part shade lull for much longer after I deadhead them after their initial bloom. But these two that I have, it's two of the same in full sun, this is one and one behind me, just never out of bloom. They might be lighter bloom during periods like after I deadhead, but like they're always in color. This is annual Rudbeckia that I grew from seed. All of them are blooming now. And I planted some Angelonia. I went and got another clearance one. So I have a blue and white, and a white over there. little bit of new growth on the candy corn spirea here. Gets that red new growth, and then it's chartreuse, especially early in the summer, like the first half of the year. It really does have kind of candy corn color to it, hence the name. Snapdragons I deadheaded, so those aren't flushed out just yet, but I am getting blooms on the foxglove. And then this Rudbeckia planted itself here. This was a seedling from the ones last year. That's about to open, so that's exciting. I love when things do the work for me. Henna coleus, looking gorgeous. 2 of them over here, nice and tall. And in the storms that we got earlier this week, Monday night and Sunday night, we got really bad thunderstorms with like 60-mile-an-hour winds blowing through. Lots of rain, but this split open. This is bone set, which is in the Joe Pyeweed family. Absolutely covered in pollinators, all different kinds. The wind's blowing too much to see, but lots of bumblebees, wasps, flies, all kinds of. It's interesting to see. Like, I have no idea how many species there are that live here, but anyway, it's split open from the rain. Because this doesn't get full sun, it gets shade for a chunk of the day, and it wants full sun. I probably will have to stake that at some point. Native bee balm still in bloom, also covered in pollinators. It's done this year where a few stems have kind of wilted, and I don't know, I haven't gotten in there to see if there's like insect damage or borers or something, but it's not a watering issue because it's not the whole plant, it's just a couple stems, so I don't know. I need to investigate further. These are doing well. I'm excited to see this canna bloom. I have buds going right here. Like I said, these were all clearance plants, and I just mainly bought them just so that I could save this tuber from the canna and the elephant ear for next year. But then I put some clearance plants in the bottom too. I noticed one new tiny little branch that sprouted new on my tree. And there are also a few new leaves coming out that are more full size. I was nervous during the storm, during the heavy winds, because I decided not to stake the tree this year. It doesn't have a large canopy. The leaves are small, so it doesn't catch the wind a whole lot. And I also have this windbreak, all the trees 2 yards over, thick trees, and that is to the west, which is where the prevailing winds generally come from. So I have a very strong windbreak over there that helps shield this tree. So these trees will be like whipping around like crazy, and this one hardly moving at all. Having exposure to wind, that's why they don't recommend that you stake new trees for more than a year, and that you stake as low on the trunk as possible, because all that action in the wind as they're growing their root system helps them form a stronger root system and really anchor themselves in. But I was sitting out on the porch. It was at night. It was 9:30, 10:30 or so when the storms blew in each night. Standing out there just watching in the lightning strikes, staring at the tree, making sure it wasn't going to blow over, but it did just fine. So the begonias over here look really gorgeous this year. I just had a mix of bronze leaf begonias, and it turned out to be mostly pinks and some whites, and barely any red ones. So I did pink and white over here, and they are doing fabulous. We've had good rain this year, not, well, at least where I am, not higher than average, but not like drowning us, thankfully. So it's been pretty good. I do finally see blooms emerging on the snake root. It just must be a late season bloomer. I have not really looked it up at all. But the foliage looks beautiful. Along with this hanging basket, we've got the tiara pink super bells. Love this color of lophos. This pink trailer, and it's even kind of climbing up into the clematis, and really pretty. I should have put 2 of them in there. I would have liked that better. But yeah, it's doing well. This darn scavola, this is the Proven Winners one. And I know they released, next year they're doing an improved version. I think it's a whirlwind white is what it is, like the trailing one. Next year they're releasing an improved version of that one. And I wish they would either take the old version off the market, you know, when an improved version is coming out, or maybe do like a discount or something on the old non-improved version, because obviously they felt the performance was poor enough that they should improve upon it. So That's kind of frustrating because that's like doing nothing. Granted, it does get a little more shade on that side of the basket, but still. I have other ones that are in shade as well, or more shade, and they're not that puny. Love the arching Solomon seal, as I've said, all this Ajuga ground cover. I was worried about that after this winter, but it filled back in very nicely. And then this little basket is finally filling in. Super Bells, Calibrachoa. This is the pink lemonade, the pink and yellow blooms, and then double smitten pink. Thankfully, in the storm, we only got 60-mile-an-hour winds, quote unquote only. Down in Iowa, it veered a little more south. They got like 100-mile-an-hour winds just over the border in Iowa. So, oof, glad we didn't get that. Glad we didn't get that much. The chokeberry here, starting to turn red on the berries, and then those will slowly turn to black. Or maybe it's like deep, deep red, but it just looks black. This is such a decorative plant. It's like covered in white blooms in the spring. Everywhere the berries are, there were white blooms all over it in the spring. And then you start getting the green fruit forming, and then it turns to red and then black. And then in the fall, it has beautiful color on its leaves, beautiful fall color. So this one is the low scape mound hedger. I will trim it. It's sprouting now from the base. It was a clearance plant. So I usually clearance plants, I let them go for a couple of years before I really do any hard pruning and start shaping them just so they can form. I just feel like I want them to work on their roots, but you don't have to do that. We've got another of the, oh darn, the 4 o'clock blooms are closed over here. The chartreuse, these lime green plants, and then they have hot pink, like neon pink blooms that open at 4 o'clock. It's like or in the morning when they get sun, hence the name. Another of the Zahara double salmon, and then Wicked Witch coleus, and then cool blue foliage and those salvia blooms that the pollinators are all over. That's Rockin' Playing the Blue Salvia, 2 of them. I did this little patch of clearance, a diacia with a scaevola, a white scaevola, not the Pervin Winters one, that's a different one. I wanted to plant the scaevola out a little more, but I have spring bulbs in here. So I was popping those out of the ground when I was trying to dig, so I had to abort that plan and think of something else. I did plant another verbena down here from clearance, getting a light second bloom on the Cat's Pajamas Nepeta. Doesn't bloom as heavy as in the spring, but I cut it back and it'll keep blooming for the rest of the season here lightly. Still don't know what the heck is going on with the, I think it might be mildew, fungus or mildew issue is what I'm thinking, even though it's not powdery or downy looking. But that's all I can think, how the leaves are all crispy and now they're kind of frizzling and drying up. It is about to bloom, so I will let it bloom and then cut it all the way back to the ground. It doesn't have like the weird deformed blooms. The plant itself isn't deformed other than the leaves are crispy and brown. So these are Solidago, I don't know if I said that, dwarf goldenrod. I did buy a little Marguerite daisy here on clearance just to fill in the space, and I got a zinnia and some other stuff to pop in here because it'll look like there's a big hole there once I cut those back. And I will dispose of that foliage. But it's like the new growth comes out healthy and then gets all crispy and browned, which is why I'm thinking maybe it's mildew issue, some kind of fungus. Last blooms on the After 8 lily. I can't believe these didn't get devoured by lily beetles like they do every year. So I'm super grateful for that. Enjoying that very much. Still treating, actually I should apply more, still treating with magnesium, so with Epsom salts, the Troutman juniper, because I'm still seeing a little bit of browning. The soil here holds on to a lot of moisture because it's a lot of clay, and these tend to like drier conditions. So while it loves the full sun where it is, it doesn't necessarily like the water situation. This is the other opening act phlox that continues to be in bloom. I did have pop some gomphrena in here. That's what this is. That's a carmine gomphrena right in front of the Annabeth's Magic Ball arborvitae. And then I got one of these Truffula Pink on clearance, naturally. Clearance queen. Sunseeker salmon echinacea. Beautiful little pop there. And we got our full flush of bloom now, second round on the peach drift rose. So I love all the colors of this bloom. It's like deep pink. When the blooms first open, they're peach with kind of a yellow golden center, age to darker coral, and they get darker and darker coral until once they're aged, they kind of turn light pink again. So very interesting plant. A few random little blooms on the Weigella, but that only blooms once a year for me. It is not a reblooming type. Cone flowers, I had to put up a little bit of support. Some things got blown around in the storm and blown over. So just a few more supports. I did cut back the yarrow, so that's starting to flush another round of blooms. And daylilies are just about done over here. The South Seas daylilies, I just have maybe 3 buds left, maybe not even that. And then those will be done, and then I'll go in and cut back all the bloom stalks, clean it up a little bit. But those stopped blooming just in time for the hardy hibiscus to open. So this is the Summerific Holy Grail hibiscus. First 2 blooms of the season. These are kind of like daylilies. Each bloom lasts a day, maybe 2 days, something like that, depending on when it opens. I have to be careful though when I deadhead these, because sometimes bees crawl in there and then fall asleep like the bumbles, and then the bloom kind of closes over them, and then they don't wake up right away, and then I pick the bloom and then there's a bumble in my hand. Phlox done with its first flush. I don't deadhead until these turn crispy and brown, because they do throw out more buds and continue blooming a little bit for a few weeks after the main bloom is done. Still have a bunch of buds and blooms on the mighty chestnut daylily. That pretty burnt orange, burgundy, and yellow, very fallish colors. Over here, lots of cosmos. Some of the straw flowers actually made it. I was worried they were all going to get choked out because the cosmos just grow so darn fast. But I do have a few straw flowers in here, along with some zinnias and gomphrena. More of my favorite salmon zinnia. I had to stake up these cosmos. They were all laying on top of this container after the first night of storms. I went around Monday after work and just reinforced everything and staked it up a whole bunch in anticipation of the storms that came Monday night. Glad I did. So those will stay staked, and now this container is more exposed. This makes really beautiful foliage accent in any plectranthus does. They last forever in a vase. And well, and they'll start, like coleus, they'll start growing roots too in water. They root easily. So, but I love this one because it has nice long branches, and it gets big. It's very prolific. And then that pop of color is so outstanding. So I'll grow that one. I'll continue to grow that one every year just to put it in vases. I don't make arrangements all that often, but when I do, it's nice to have it. I did harvest my garlic from over here. So that's drying in the garage. I'll move that to the basement, and I spread out my grow bags a little bit. I have maybe half a dozen shallots left. And then I bought a bunch of sale annuals, and that's what I throw in these grow bags for the end of the season. So I got all kinds of stuff. Over here, I did these Italian long hots are catching up to the other ones. They're growing fast. I have a bunch of peppers on there already. Stems are getting nice and long. So I'm excited. I don't really grow hot peppers all that much. I haven't, because I don't use a ton of them where I would need a whole plant's worth, rather than just buying a couple at the store. This is the poppy. I have to wait. I know where I'm going to plant it, but I have to wait until the soil breaks down a little bit. I have cardboard over the grass. I mean, I could plant it now, but I hate planting in a grass area. So I'm going to throw it in here, take it out of its container just so it can spread its roots. You can see it's pretty stressed. It's done blooming now, but that'll hold it over and keep it happy until I'm ready to plant it in its spot. The zucchini plants, still all 5 are very healthy. I just gave away a bunch of zucchini. I planted 5 seeds because that was what was left in the packet. And usually at least one of them dies from something or other. Squash vine borers or mildew or who knows what. But so far, all 5 of them have lived, so I'm swimming in zucchini. My zinnia and angelonia are doing well. This kind of got blown around. I did pop some clearance salvias in there just to fill those holes. I really like this double raspberry ripple zinnia. Probably won't do the starlight rose one again just because most of the blooms come out white. I mean, it's fine. It's pretty, but they also look kind of ratty when they age. Any zinnias where you can see a lot of like the seed head, the middle part, the cone or whatever, kind of look ratty as they age. Cannot wait to dig up these strawberries. I did top off my garden bed. I'm just tired of working around all of these strawberries, and they're fruiting again. My mom's been harvesting and eating most of them. But I should dig up a bunch more and just give them away because I am tired of dealing with it. Lots of flowers on the beans. Everything doing good over here. Oh, Millennium Allium is just starting to open. Look at that. By next weekend, we'll have actual blooms. These buds are like right on the verge of cracking, and then all the pollinators will be all over this plant. Got boom chocolate geranium still throwing up blooms. And the drops of Jupiter oregano. I love the bloom color on this. This is a pollinator magnet, another one. They're just covering it. And even like beetles and flies, which are good pollinators too, I believe. Beautiful firelights. And right behind, you can kind of see the difference. Now these firelights get more sun than the little lime, which is a dwarf version of limelight. But you can kind of see the difference in color. The firelights bloom much earlier, and they come out like a pure white, creamy white. And then with cold evening temperatures, that's what triggers them starting to turn pink. Whereas the limelight comes out like kind of chartreuse, and then it'll turn a little brighter white. Then it'll turn really pale pink versus this one, which turns like a deep raspberry. Very pretty. Little shade garden doing well over here. My gem is still blooming. Double red dragon. This variety continues to bloom if you keep it deadheaded pretty much all summer. The 2 that I had that died this winter did that as well. This, I think I need to get rid of this hosta. It just has never done well. I've moved. This is called Designer Jeans. It has chartreuse leaves with red stems. It's very susceptible to slug damage. It gets real crispy even when it's in full shade. Well, maybe I can move it somewhere where I just need a ground cover to suppress weeds. Maybe I'll do that where I don't really see it. Put something better in there. It doesn't get all eaten up and crispy and gross looking. I've moved that thing, I think, 3 or 4 times now. So I just don't have a spot where it's going to be happy, or perhaps it just doesn't have the best. It's not Designer Jeans, let's say that. It doesn't have the best DNA for my garden. And this trio, Sun King Aurelia, Iceberg Alley, Sage Leaf Willow, Limelight Hydrangea. Stunning. It'll be even more beautiful once those blooms fully open on the limelight. This one's now starting to get to its mature size. That one was a clearance plant. It was kind of puny, so it's taken a couple of years to take off, but now it's looking good. In this area, you can kind of see, this is why I pop in annuals here, because I cut back these salvia a few weeks ago, and they're starting to flush out fresh leaves, and they'll just stay low like that. Same thing with this Walker's Low Nepeta. It's now filling in, but it won't get huge again. So in the middle, I've the last few years popped in. This is actually a good combination. A couple vinca, just what I find on clearance. A couple vinca, a couple salvia. I do need to cut back the yarrow now that that's done blooming. I mean, you don't need to, but I'll cut it all the way back, and then it'll push out fresh foliage, that kind of lacy, ferny foliage, and look really pretty. These irises I need to clean up. Sometimes those don't usually brown out for me, or at least not that I remember. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong. I love this container, how this turned out this year. My herbs, I have rosemary, sage, and oregano in here. I had some extra marigolds and I popped a Victoria Blue Salvia in there. This is a large pot, but it's plastic, so it can stay out here all winter long. That was one that my stepmom gave me and I repainted it. Very beautiful. What was that one called? Witch's Brew Coleus. That's a really cool one. And this one's out in full sun. Big fan of that. Man, a lot of my coleus are getting eaten up this year. I haven't looked really to see if that kind of looks like earwigs. I know I've seen a couple and I've had them in my garden, so I'm guessing that's what it is. They tend to be bashful and hide during the day. That's technically what these little pots are for on top of the stakes. They're supposed to be like a trap for earwigs. I just have them there so I don't accidentally poke my eye when I'm leaning over the plant, just for safety reasons. But you can fill them with like damp straw or like plant matter that's kind of moist and pop them under there, because that's what earwigs are attracted to. They like to hide in there and nest in that, or whatever. They like to go in there. And then you can come out in the morning and grab the pot and throw it in a bucket of soapy water and kill the earwigs from your trap. But I don't do that. I just deal with them. Let's see. I did, unfortunately, lose one dahlia in the storm. The whole thing blew over with the stake and everything. One of the cafe au lait dahlias. It snapped off at the base, so that one is gone. So instead, I popped my little fall planter in there. But you can't even really tell because I still have plenty of them in there. This one is supposed to be cafe au lait. But the more it ages, the more sort of purpley lavender it gets. And like if we go look at this bloom here, I'm pretty sure because I never bought one this color. I don't have a tag for it. Versus this, which is definitely, that's what I've grown before. That's cafe au lait. It has a little pink and lavender, but mostly kind of creamy, peachy cream color. I think I got both of those at Bachman's. And every single dahlia that I bought from Menards was mismarked. It was not. What grew is not what it was labeled. I have 3. There were at least 3 of the same, but these small ones were supposed to be tall dinner plate dahlia. I think. Oh, now the name, I'm forgetting it. But it was supposed to be a big dinner plate bloom, dark pink, like this color pink, but a tall plant with dinner plates. At least all 3 were the same. And then there was a random fourth tuber in there, which turned out to be this one, which is also different, whatever that one is. This dahlia was supposed to be Haley Joy or Haley, I think it's Haley Joy or Haley Jane, which is a cactus style dahlia, which this one is, but hot pink with a white center. And I got 2 of those in the package, and both of them came out solid white. So just be warned, that was a big box store, Menards. They were a great price, so, and they're pretty, so I don't mind. This is Manhattan Island. I think it has even more yellow in the center once it fully opens. I have a couple of those budded up. This is the Golden Scepter Ball Dahlia. Really beautiful color on this one. These are vigorous plants. So I've saved these tubers for a couple years now. Here's the other random white one. Back over here. Yeah, I was reinforcing all the staking on these quite a bit. I used up all my stakes. And they survived. One of them kind of leaned over along with the sunflower in the wind, but it didn't break, so I was able to prop it back up and restake it. Deal alert, too, if you're in the Twin Cities or an area with Cub Foods grocery stores. They have fall planters for sale. Most of them have annuals. There's Rudbeckia, Celosia, and Strawflower annuals in these little pots, but then they also had, some of them had Echinacea, and there are 3 plants per pot, and it was only $9.99 for 3 Echinacea. So they weren't labeled with the variety. They were all kind of like pinks, peaches, and yellows. and mixed. So I got 3 of those pots. And I'm just going to pull them, pull the plants apart and plant them out in the landscape. But that's a great deal. 3 for $10. For echinacea, that's, after tax, it's like $3.50 a piece. So, but otherwise, everything looks good over here. I did throw I had a clearance wire vine that I threw in here in the bare soil. Let's go take a peek. Ooh, I can show you the portulaca blooms here. Ooh, detour to this Americana coral geranium, one of the brightest coral blooms. So pretty. That one I overwintered. I'll overwinter it again. This is its 2nd year. But the portulaca blooms open right now. So this is the mango salsa from Proven Winners. There's Pizzazz Nano Pink, Pizzazz Nano Yellow with a little bumble feasting right there. Oh, and there's a tiny little bees in the other ones. And then this is the what's the Proven Winners one? The red. I just said it in my last video too, and I already forgot. It's pink, but a little warmer pink. You see why they called it red, because next to the hot pink it is a little warmer tone. Also, deal alert if you're in the Twin Cities. The Garden City greenhouses tents, which are the ones in parking lots, like there's one at Rosedale Mall. They have 9 locations around the Twin Cities and different kinds of parking lots, grocery stores, shopping centers, etc. All of their flats, their 4-pack annual flats, a whole flat is $5. And you can mix, they have whole flats of just impatiens and salvia and stuff like that. I mixed and matched. I just hodgepodge stuff because I wanted to plant at my side garden. So I got verbena, dahlia, aster, salvia. I got a bunch of stuff. $5 for the whole flat, which is a crazy, that's like 12 4-packs. And then the Proven Winners are 75% off, which brings them down to $2.50 a piece. So I got a bunch of those too. I think most other stuff is either 30 or 40% off. Perennial's not a great deal yet. Isn't that pretty? Look at that, the Twinny Peach with the hot pink color. What a nice combination. Love that. That's the drawback of portulacas. They only open their portulaca, whatever. Their blooms only open like in the sun, and they're not open all the time. They tend to close their blooms, so you don't always get to see the blooms. They would pretty much be the perfect plant, if so. So anyway, yeah, perennial's still only 20% off at those tents, but they do deeper discounts as we get further into the season. I did harvest the giant sunflower here, so I'll be pulling these seeds out, putting them in the bird feeder. I just put the smaller bloom heads in there, and the birds have been going crazy for those, eating those up. But that opened up this space quite a bit. Now that geranium's going to get, everything over here is going to get full sun again. The sunflowers created quite a bit of shade, so I think it'll all be much happier over there. Otherwise, things are looking great. Ever since this Kufia tipped over, it's done much better than it was standing upright. So I'm glad I let it just kind of lay down. This verbena is now blooming, this Danzinger one. Very nice. This is still one of my favorite containers, the Mango Salsa Vandalista Lantana, Waikiki Sunset, Lismachia, and the Cerveza and Lime Plectranthus. When those Plectranthus overwinter very well, but I don't like overwintering huge ones. So I'll let that one will die in the frost. And like I got this one, I'll up pot this into a little bit bigger pot and then overwinter that. It's much more manageable for me. I don't dig out the huge plants from the containers and overwinter those. It's just a little too much. We did get some hail during the storm, so I do have some holes ripped. It wasn't really bad hail. Bigger stones, but not like a ton of it, not heavy hail. But these big, huge leaves got a little bit kind of ripped up. But that's okay. They'll shoot out new leaves, and those will age and whatever. And this begonia is still absolutely stunning. Just love that. I'm glad I bought that. Look at the back of the petals. Isn't that cool? That was a impulse purchase. Lovely. And the dragon wing with the darker green leaves in the shade. If it's in more sun, it'll be more bright chartreuse green. Impatiens from the one whole flat for $5 sale. Things are looking good. I'll do a container garden specific tour. I need to water this pot really badly. I couldn't water it yesterday. Well, I could, but you see why? I just was able to finally water that one, but somebody, multiple somebodies, like to sleep in these containers. So they're kind of putting a wrench in my plans when I need to do some watering. I mean, I could just shoo them away, but they're so cute. Little sleeping kitten, you know? This red container's been doing great. This double redstone Super Bells is a really good one. Highly recommend that variety. Super Bells or Calibraco in general do well in this container. I think it's just the right full sun where it is and just the right amount of water for them without being oversaturated. But this is just one begonia that's Surefire cherry cordial begonia, and this is the Superbena red, full of buds. Verbena kind of flushes and unflushes. Here's the third bowl, echinacea bowl that I got, and you can see it's like 3 different. There's like kind of pinky one, more orangey, and then a yellow one in there. So I guess you're taking a chance if you want them all, if you like everything to be matchy, but I've given up on that. Nature has other plans. I thought these were dead. Those bulbs had rotted, but no, they just took forever to emerge. Also in my shade planter, but now we have the and those are more sun tolerant. I forget the variety now. I order all my caladium corms from Florida Boys Caladium. Excellent quality, good service, good prices. Can't go wrong. So this geranium will be much happier. This, I think, is the third year that I've had this out in the garden. And I don't know if I'll be able to overwinter it next year. I think it's just too big. I might try to do it bare root, though, if I cut it back. I mean, nothing to lose versus, you know, ripping it out. It'll be dead either way. Rockin' or Rock, it's like Rockin' Back in Black sedum. They have a lot of Rockin' series. I do see some buds getting ready to open. But it is all budded up, that nice deep color on these sedum over here. And my American Gold Rush Rudbeckia started to open up. I have 2 of them. I had one large plant in this garden and it got fusarium wilt and died all the way back. But the next spring, you know, I pulled it out by fall and just planted annuals that year. The next spring, I saw 2 little chunks of it had survived, just 2 little bitty pieces. So I left those in, and so far, so good. They're growing. This one, of course, gets a lot more shade because I plant things that shade it. I did leave that sunflower stem because there's one little bud on there, so I wanted to see what it would do. Not a lot of changes over here. Lambsy are really perking up and filling in. Same thing with I think I might just do like statuary or something over here instead of trying to, it's a really difficult spot to plant now that these shrubs are mature. Everything just seems to want to die in there. And then like this year, and last year too, the feral kittens roll and tumble and wrestle and kind of make a big mess. So I might try, you know, something like a ground cover and then just do, I don't know what, some kind of tall statuary. No changes really over here. I did see the turtle head is starting to put its flower buds on. This is, I think, Hot Lips Kiloni turtle head. So that's a sign that the end is nigh. End of summer is coming. This is kind of the last thing to bloom in like summer before we get into like the fall blooming stuff. So it's like the last hurrah of summer before it becomes fall. This poor little one, I don't know why. I had one planted, and then the following year I planted these 2. And there's, I mean, come on, what's your deal? I mean, it's surviving, definitely not thriving. So I don't know why it doesn't do well in that spot. I feel like I should move it, see what happens. So far, no kitten smash on my fern. Last year that was smashed flat to the ground. Bounced back, luckily. That's a ghost fern. Love that minty green foliage. And this gets a good amount of sun, too. This year we got enough rain, so it didn't turn completely crispy. And this Dicentra is still in bloom. This has been blooming since May. Deadhead throws up more blooms, and it has this really cool blue foliage. That is the, I forgot to look it up again. Pink Diamond, I think it's called. Dicentra, Bleeding Heart from Proven Winners. So if I take over the grass eventually over here, I'll definitely want to plant more of those. And this is GM foliage. These are the, I think it's called Tangerine Twist or something, Tangerine. But isn't that foliage just gorgeous? And it's semi-evergreen. Just stays like this all summer. This can take a ton of drought too. And it's supposed to be full sun. This is definitely part sun situation over here. It gets all afternoon shade. But it just, after you deadhead it, it just keeps, even if it doesn't rebloom, like the red dragon one, it just keeps this beautiful mound of green that looks lush. And it's like fuzzy too, like very soft and fuzzy feeling. So I want to put more GM around the garden. I did trim back the Super Tunia Mini Vista Yellow. I'm so impressed that this hasn't gotten leggy, hasn't split in the middle. That is a good one. Highly recommend Super Tunia Mini Vista Yellow. And I like that it's kind of a buttery yellow too. Creamy buttery. And the Lysimachia Waikiki Sunset Bobo Hydrangeas have started to open. These would definitely bloom more, I think, if they got a lot more sun than they do, and if they weren't so close to the Arborvitae over here, which sucks up all the water. But they still, I mean, this is testament to how tough they are. They're still putting on blooms. Also, if I sprinkled more, that would help. And then this is definitely a Kong coleus. Probably Kong red, although it could be Kong rose. I don't know if a random seed got in there somewhere. It could have come with the geranium from the greenhouse. Maybe they had a coleus that seeded, or it could have been in my soil from where I grew coleus last year, since I save all my soil, or that which is unaffected by disease over the growing season. And I think we're back at the start. I think I'll do, this is a long video, of course, trying to show everything. So I'm going to do a separate garden tour of the containers, couple-week update. Every few weeks, it's nice to post what's, because everything gets really full. End of August, that is like peak season here. Everything gets really full and kind of in its full glory. Containers, you can hardly even see the pots anymore. So yeah, and I did some updates in the front yard. I don't know if maybe I'll do a quick tour of that. Maybe not, I don't know, maybe next week. We'll see. Stay tuned. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.